What's up, guys? Happy New Year. I'm bringing to you my second team from Holiday Cup. It's a team I tried kind of Selby as lead with really poor success at the beginning of the cup. I played some of these games off stream, and actually, I think this first set that I do play is probably one of the best sets I've ever played in my entire life. This team is wildly successful. JJan hits, I think, rank 1 on the leaderboards with a similar team with Froslass lead instead. I'm showing kind of why I like a Marowak lead a little bit better here. Also, I don't have a Froslass. And I know some other people have been running a very similar core except with Wiggly. I do think Alolan Marowak does complement Vigoroth and Obstagoon very well. And I've had a lot of success with this team so far. Like on and off stream, I think I've gained 300 rating. Just with it, I think I had one negative set, which was mostly my fault. It was a gameplay issue. But as we go through this, I'll take you through how this team works. Very similar to a lot of my previous teams with a lot of Pokemon you might be very familiar with as well. Before we get into it, huge shout out to all my Patreon supporters. You guys have been awesome. But yeah, let's get into this gameplay video here. All right. So this set I actually did play on stream. Sorry, the first set is an on-stream set. And yeah, when I'm on stream, I'm not really trying that hard, but I had lost a pretty bad set beforehand, so I was going to give this set my all, and we'll see how it goes. So Froslass into Vigoroth here. My goal is to catch the Bulldoze on my Vigoroth, and it works out perfectly. The thing is with Froslass into Vigoroth, a Marowak beats Vigoroth as well, but at the same time, I really want to line up my Marowak with that Froslass later. I know I have Obstagoon as well, but my Vigoroth is more or less the least important Pokemon on this team once they release, or once they show that they have a Froslass. So I want to swap him in, catch a move. You know, if I don't catch the Bulldoze, that's fine. I'll catch a couple Body Slams, burn their energy, and at that point, Switch advantage isn't that important. It's more about shield advantage because both my Pokemon can beat Froslass comfortably. So they swap out, and I'm just going to throw a Bone Club here. I have a ton of energy, so even if I do farm down later, it's okay. I'm going to tank a move here. It's actually probably good that they threw, and I'm going to swap out to Obstagoon in a little bit. I decided to make the big play and catch, although I don't think this was all too necessary. But what it does give me is it gives me loaded energy on my Marowak, and shielded, or not shield advantage, but I have energy on all my Pokemon to be able to take down theirs. I want my Obstagoon to be in the red, so I don't get farmed down too much by Froslass. I lag a little bit, but it's pretty obvious I'm not getting to that Night Slash there anyways. But I have 2 full Shadow Bones, so while this game does look kind of close, it is less close than expected, but you'll notice that against this team, I did have to make 2 catches. I caught Bulldoze on Vigoroth, and then I caught Night Slash on Obstagoon. So turning up my gameplay a little bit. Sorry if the last video, my gameplay personally wasn't very good, but this one has a bit better gameplay for sure. So we're gonna see a bad lead here, Obstagoon lead, and I'm gonna get out right away to Vigoroth. So Vigoroth is good, my best counter to Obstagoon, but Obstagoon against itself is obviously pretty good as well. Like it's a mirror, it's not too bad. It's really whoever has that little bit of health or energy advantage, and I can always play myself into that. So they swap in their Stunfisk, and this is pretty good as well because, well, Stunfisk is a great answer to Alolan Marowak. If I can eliminate or get this thing really low, that would be ideal. And because they do have an Obstagoon, I am favoring shield advantage or switch advantage a little more. I want my Obstagoon up against theirs. But unfortunately, okay, so this was actually a bigger deal than I thought. I tried to save Vigoroth for their Obstagoon later. So I swapped into my Obstagoon because they were just trying to farm me down and maybe get another shield. And I actually tried to catch a move. They didn't throw it. So unfortunately, they have Wiggly in the back, right? So Obstagoon does quite a bit of damage to Wiggly, and I'm able to come in and farm down with Alolan Marowak. At this point, I can take the player off. It's going to do a lot less damage than a Night Slash. But I have to be really wary about my switch timer. I'm trying to wear it down right now. And it's a big deal that I kept this Vigoroth alive because it's going to be able to take down the Stunfisk. And then it's going to be able to deal a significant damage to Obstagoon and burn a shield. So that swap into Obstagoon where I locked myself in with Wigglytuff, it was a really risky play, but that was the worst case scenario, and it still comes out as a good play. Now this Obstagoon has quite a bit of energy too, and if they get to two Night Slashes, it's not looking very good for me, but luckily I'm able to beat them to the Bone Club, and that's all you really need with Alolan Marowak there. So heads up play to switch to Obstagoon. So in this case, if you're in with Vigoroth, I would never make that play to switch into Marowak because that would eliminate your only counter. Whereas Vigoroth and Obstagoon counter a lot of the same things. So I'm switching to Obstagoon there to kind of preserve my Vigoroth against their Obstagoon later. So another Stunfisk swap in. And I've actually seen a lot of Stunfisks recently. So they're a bit annoying for this team. They do stomp Alolan Marowak, and they do beat Vigoroth, I think, in the one shield, or at least if they have the energy advantage and you switch them, they beat him in the one shield. And I don't really line up Obstagoon with Stunfisk that much, but I assume the matchup is similar with Vigoroth. Maybe even a bit worse, just because Night Slash does less damage than Body Slam, right? But you can see here, I don't prioritize switch advantage here, right? Instead, I am going to just go for the huge farm down to try and make this Obstagoon a little bit more useful against their lead, which I believe was Wiggly, right, in this game. So I'm just taking all this energy from the Stunfisk. They probably think they're getting a great deal, but because Wiggly comes in, I'm going to have to swap out right away, and they're going to go into their own Alolan Marowak. And because I swapped out a bit faster, and because I got a Fire Spin off in the lead, I'm actually way ahead of energy here. So I'm going to get to this Bone Club. I let through 2 Fire Spins, but I just really want to get this through. I'm going to end up shielding this myself. I believe we CMP tied, but they have 2 moves. So at this point, I'm fine blowing 2 shields. I know they're baiting me, but all I have to do is beat them to this Bone Club. That's all I have to do. The goal here is to deal as much damage to this Wiggly as possible. So now you might think I'm in a pretty rough position because, well, my charge moves don't deal very much damage to Wigglytuff, but I swap right into my Obstagoon after my own charge move, so I can throw not just 1 Cross Chop, but I'll get 2 Cross Chops off here. So the energy I saved earlier by farming down that Stunfisk all the way, instead of throwing any charge moves at all or shielding my Obstagoon at all and just leaving it all to the Marowak, completely pays off. So that was a pretty heads-up play. And also one of the reasons I was very proud of this set is I read that situation as my only win condition, and then I executed it. So, yeah, there's a bit of dancing you do have to do with this team around your back line, especially when you don't line up with a good lead. So this is another not great lead. And this guy, great play, catches my Body Slam. I've been careful about this. So the reason I throw Body Slam right away instead of overcharging a bit to stop the catch is because as Vigoroth, you win the CMP tie with Obstagoon, so you can stop them from getting to a Bulldoze, I guess. But the thing about catching the Body Slam is not all too bad, because Vigoroth versus Marowak, you'll get to 2 Body Slams, and they don't actually shield this, and this is huge for me, because I'm able to bring in my Obstagoon. I'll have to blow a shield, of course, so I get switch advantage here. But being able to take down this Obstagoon is massive. Unfortunately, I'm not counting moves properly, and they do get to another shield, but they're going to come in with Skarmory. So at this point, I have to make another big play. I'm going to catch a Sky Attack on Marowak. The reason I do this is because I'm thinking at this point, the only way I'm going to win is if I get a boost on Obstagoon, or if I get a defense drop on Marowak. I wasn't honestly thinking the defense drop, but like that is actually what happened in terms of those are my win conditions. So I get the defense drop, and the thing with the boost is that I need to have as much energy as possible on Obstagoon. That's why I banked up a bunch before switching out. If I had swapped out to catch a Sky Attack, it would have cleared my boosts, right? So in this case, I do get the boost, and I'm able to take down that Skarmory. So, on the second one. If I got the boost in the first one, it would have been a much easier game. So another game where I really did have to play quite hard. Honestly, if you watch the rest of the sets after this, I did not have to play nearly as hard to win these games. These ones have were all nail biters, and this could have been a 0-5 or a 5-0. There were no easy games in this set. So in this case, It's an Altaria lead, really bad for Marowak. I swap into Vigoroth. Vigoroth wins 2 shield versus Altaria. The problem is trying to make them go to that 2 shield with you. I'm just going to throw my Body Slams repeatedly, and they're staying in at this point. The reason I didn't throw my first one early is just in case they want to switch out. So at this point, because I was a little bit slow, I don't get to that next Body Slam. So if I don't force the first shield, I don't want to force them to do another shield. Otherwise, they'll just let my Body Slam through, right? So I farm them down with the Alolan Marowak, and in comes Alolan Graveler. So this matchup is all right until I realized it was Rock Throw. So I realized this Rock Throw is not as good of a matchup anymore as the Volt Switch matchup, which is more or less even, especially with an energy advantage. But I do get 2 shields with the Bone Clubs, and I'm able to swap into Obstagoon, and the only thing they have left is an Alolan Marowak of their own. So that puts me at a huge advantage, and my opponent does not even want to play this out. So I'm just going to collect this 5-0 really quickly. But yeah, so it's a bit different than a normal double weakness team. Like you'd think Vigoroth and Obstagoon, you draw out the fighting counter with Vigoroth, then Obstagoon doesn't come up against a counter user or something like that. But the best counter users in Holiday Cup are actually Vigoroth and Obstagoon themselves. So you're not really drawing them out because Obstagoon's not going to come in on Vigoroth, and then Vigoroth swapping into another Vigoroth also isn't very good, just because the Vigoroth with the energy advantage will either take shield advantage or switch advantage. It's based on energy, not based on health advantage. So that's why in this case it kind of doesn't work by drawing out counters that way. And then as well, stuff like Drifloon completely walls Vigoroth, whereas it's completely countered by Obstagoon. So there's a bit of nuance to this play in terms of you're not just completely drawing out counters. In this case, Alolan Marowak versus Marowak lead. The goal with these double weakness teams, you do want to switch out at some point, right? So I get baited, but I throw Shadow Bone, and I'm just trying to see how this guy plays. I want to catch the next move. So I'm going to try and switch out and catch a move. Both my Pokemon are normal, so if they don't bait, they're going to take almost no damage from Shadow Bone. If he does bait, that's fine. Bone Club is so bad it doesn't do anything anyways, and this is ideal. I'm going to bait out the Alolan Ninetales. So at this point, I'm kind of thinking, who's running Alolan Ninetales instead of Wigglytuff? And that's when I realized it's probably just a double charm team, right? So I needed to win switch advantage. I absolutely needed to win it. Because I cannot have my Obstagoon going up against the Wigglytuff there. So luckily they let me win switch advantage. I'm able to bring my Obstagoon in, and I'm just waiting for this Wiggly to come in. Yeah, it's a Wiggly. And this game is still not over, but like because Wiggly versus Marowak isn't actually that dominating for Marowak. You resist Charm, but Charm hits so hard, and Bone Club tickles, so it's way more even than it should be. But I don't really need it to be dominating. I just need it to be somebody. I just need to get the Wiggly low. In this case, I actually do think. Oh no, I don't think I take the Wiggly down. That's fine as well. Oh no, I do, because Ice Beam. They use Ice Beam instead of Play Rough, which was an interesting choice. But I think they probably wanted to get some farm on their Pokemon as well. But I just have to get to 2 Night Slashes, and this game should be pretty much over as well. The reason I shielded there was because I wasn't unsure if they were running Fire Blast and if they had charge up to the Fire Blast. We're going to boost there right at the end to take down that Marowak. A lot of boosts right at the end of games for me for some reason. Right after they would have been very, very useful. So this next game is against No Game No Life. We have Skarmory lead. This is great. It's hard to tell if Skarmorys are running Air Slash or Steel Wing nowadays, especially when they switch right away. So I still don't know what kind of game I'm in for. If it's Steel Wing, the entire team does really well against Skarmory. If it's Air Slash, Marowak has the much better matchup, but I mean Vigoroth and Obstagoon are pretty good too. So we'll see which one it is. I'm just going to keep throwing Body Slams at this Stunfisk. That's the thing with the Stunfisk, is that if I do want switch advantage, I'm going to have to blow a shield. And at this point, I decided it's worth it. I have a little bit of energy. I'll be able to farm all the way down and come into the next match with a Body Slam. Like, it'll probably be a Skarmory, and it's a Steel Wing Skarmory, but the Body Slam damage adds up with the counter damage, and as much damage you can get is good too, right? Steel Wing Skarmory also charges really slow. So I can just bring in Marowak. They're going to throw an attack. They probably are trying to make me think it's Brave Bird, but there's no way they're at it. It just charges so slowly, and they're going to bring in Wigglytuff. So this is a really, really, really tough situation for me. Actually, no pun intended, but yeah, Wigglytuff situation right there. My Marowak isn't healthy enough to deal with this Wiggly unless they keep letting my moves through. So I'm fast move denying absolutely everything right now. I cannot let a charm go through, and that allows me to get to this extra Bone Club. If I did not fast move deny at all, my Marowak would have gone all the way down, and now I need my Obstagoon to get to a move or counter down. So obviously I'll shield this, take over the Ice Beams to the play rough for, in my opinion, no reason, because you're never going to get to the next move anyways. So I'm going to throw Night Slash against the Steel Wing Skarmory and just farm down. I throw the Night Slash here just because I wasn't sure how much energy they were at. I was like, if they threw Ice Beam, maybe they're at more energy than I remember. But might as well, and you get the boost, you know. The boost flex at the end of the game works out pretty well here. But yeah, so get another win with this team. I think that might have been, well, I didn't show the set before this, but I think this might have been like 10 wins in a row or something like that. I was feeling very confident at this point. So we'll see an Altaria lead here. Altaria lead's probably the toughest to deal with. Like, it doesn't hard counter anything, but just nothing you have is very good against it. So you're kind of forced to use shields. And if they play correctly, it's tough to deal with, I guess. Like in this case, I think if they stay in and I drag them to the 2-shield, that's great. But if they swap out to Wigglytuff, it's much harder. At least I will be able to grab a shield back with Body Slams. And Wigglytuff's at a great amount of HP for Marowak to come in and farm down. So my goal here is to get a ton of energy on Marowak so I can throw Shadow Bones, swap out to Obstagoon, and hopefully have something that Marowak counters again and can just farm down to beat their Altaria. So yeah, throw the Shadow Bone. We're just going to try and pivot in and out of this bad lead. It does a ton of damage, and we're going to come in, and guess what? It was Double Charmer! Okay, yet another Double Charmer team. Altaria Double Charmer, very hard counter to this team. But you know what? You're going to do what you can, and I'm going to try and make this game as close as possible. Unfortunately, my Marowak is a bit low, so I couldn't leave that Ninetales up a bit higher. I wanted to take it down before I got to a move, but it just gets to the Psyshock, and I'm forced to shield. So this puts me in a pretty rough situation. I go for the Bone Club bait, and then I just need to be able to reach another Bone Club, and I am one Fire Spin away, so just a couple turns away from winning that one, despite it being an absolutely awful lead. I guess what I could have done is put myself in a better situation to farm down, but it's very hard to put yourself in a better situation to farm down Charmers because they put so much pressure out, even if stuff's resisted. So Haunter lead, scratch that about Altaria. Haunter lead is probably the worst. I've tried multiple times unsuccessfully to catch on 5 their Shadow Punch because they almost always overcharge against Marowak. And I eat a Sludge Bomb, and in comes Wigglytuff. So this is yet another Charmer switch in. This time I'm not able to force the shield. This Wigglytuff is a lot higher health. So my goal is to just farm down for the most part. I want to save a shield here, so I throw my Bone Club just so that they don't get to a move. Fortunately, Haunter likely coming back in. I just make sure by throwing that one Fire Spin, I'm going to get this Bone Club off, and then I misread the situation, if I remember correctly, and think I can get to another Bone Club, but I'm KO'd just beforehand. So that was a poor play. I really should have just swapped to Obstagoon at that point. I'll shield a Sludge Bomb, but yeah, in comes Vigoroth. This is not ideal. I'm going to have to shield the Body Slam, which is really unfortunate because I just get to the Cross Chop there. I should have thrown a little bit earlier. They shield anyway, so it doesn't end up mattering. I know I'm going to beat them to the next Cross Chop because I have a 1 counter advantage. So this is how Obstagoon actually beats Vigoroth. You beat Vigoroth in the 1 shield with a little bit of energy advantage. And then in comes Haunter, and 1 fast move away, yet again, of winning a game. So even though I lose, this team does keep you in it in pretty much every game. There's not been a game Well, I guess there's no real hard counters to Vigoroth and Obstagoon. This game is against Nick, another streamer as well, running a very similar team if I remember correctly. So this is Froslass lead here. So Froslass versus Marowak. I don't throw my Shadow Bone right away because a lot of the times they like to swap. And I'll shield first. It's a Shadow Ball, luckily for me. So I throw a couple more Fire Spins and throw this Shadow Bone. And they let their Froslass go down, and they come in with Obstagoon. So at this point, I'm just going to swap out to Vigoroth, and they're going to swap to their own Vigoroth. So mirror team except Alolan Marowak versus Froslass. I'm surprised they didn't swap out earlier. Usually in these double weakness teams, you like to swap at some point. I would never let my lead go down. I'm never going to let Alolan Marowak just faint on this team. There's not a single lead that I would just let that happen to. I'm just going to swap out because if you lose lead, the best way to win the game is to muddy up the situation as much as possible. Just muck around with it. If you don't know what you're doing, your opponent can't know what they're doing, right? Or can't know what you're doing. And that's how you win games. So they're going to come back with Vigoroth, and they've got an Obstagoon in the back, and unfortunately for them, I also have an Obstagoon in the back. I'm staying in just because I want to clear energy. My only loss... Ooh, they get the boost. So this is scary. My only loss condition really, in my head, was that if they had an energy advantage, but they got the boost, and... we'll see how much, you see how much those counters are doing. They're absolutely chunking, but I have too much of a health lead for that to matter. And I'm going to end up winning this game and this set because of that. Just small point gains, but you take what you can get. So that's kind of how you would play the mirror backline. I guess there's a Wigglytuff version of this, a Froslass version of this. Marowak beats both in the lead, so you do have yourself quite a bit of an advantage, I would say. Along with the fact that Marowak handles a lot of stuff like Skarmory and well, all the ice types you see a little bit better, and it puts pressure. Like, this team is all good against ice types. It's very hard for ice types to come in against this team. We're going to see another Froslass lead. This time I do go straight for the Shadow Bone because I haven't seen Froslasses trying to catch recently. It's been more trying to just rush that Shadow Ball and either Shadow Ball or bait. So in this case, I do the same thing. And they come in with Stunfisk, and I'm going to swap out. So like I said, you want to be swapping with these double weakness teams. I think that's the biggest mistake. I see a lot of the a lot of high tier, like really, really good players play these teams really poorly, is they don't switch out. You really have to switch out at some point. There's maybe a handful of leads that you don't switch out on, and all double weakness teams. I'm not talking about just this one, just in general. They're going to swap into their own Vigoroth. So I still get to the Body Slam, so it's not too bad. And my goal is to be able to farm most of the way down. And with a ton of energy on Alolan Marowak, I just go for the Fire Spin down after the Bone Club. But I think they might have got to a Bulldoze. Unfortunate for me, but at this point, I'm really kind of just hoping that my my Obstagoon can carry this. So I'll throw off a Shadow Bone, which gets shielded, and swap into Obstagoon here. It's Obstagoon in the one shield versus Stunfisk in the one shield, except Obstagoon has like a 75% health lead, and Stunfisk has a little bit of an energy lead. So this game is all but over. My opponent is just trying their hardest to win it. Like, this is fine. But I'm going to charge up to 2 Night Slashes, and they're just going to let it through to help speed up the process. So much respect to my opponent on that one. It's not like a Vigoroth versus Drifblim situation where you're ruining everyone's time by staying in with that. But we're going to see a Victreebel lead. I actually saw a decent amount of these today. None of them were the team I was running, though. So Victreebel into Froslass. I swap to try and catch the Shadow Ball, but unfortunately it's an Avalanche. So a bit of a poor catch by me, but I am okay to just... Unfortunately, I CMP tie, so yeah, this was poor play. I really should have overcharged. I knew that they were a little bit under, and I undercharged a little bit so I get that extra counter damage through, just so I can try and get the energy lead and try and get that Night Slash off of versus Victreebel. But I don't think it's going to be enough. Yeah, it's not going to be quite enough. Luckily, I still have one of the harder counters in the game, and they're going to swap out. This is good for me because I had a ton of energy. So I'm going to be able to get off a Shadow Bone onto the Stunfisk first. This Stunfisk still has 2 shields. I have 1 shield. This makes it a bit rough, but they realize that with the Alolan Marowak and Vigoroth revealed, what they really have to worry about are these body slams taking down their Stunfisk. Otherwise, my Alolan Marowak is going to be able to deal with this Victreebel pretty handily. Yeah, so they shield both body slams. At this point, I am okay to let my Vigoroth down. They actually play this really well by looking at their switch timer. So they knew I swapped a bit slowly because I threw a Shadow Bone into their Stunfisk, so they swap right away, and my Vigoroth is locked in and is able to be taken down. So that gives them a bit of a win condition, but because they weren't trying to move on Stunfisk before they did that, I'm able to throw a Shadow Bone and just get the win here by farming down the Victreebel. You do have to shield Leaf Blade, though. Like, Leaf Blade hits really, really hard, even on Alolan Marowak. But I'm a Shadow Victreebel player myself, so I know the matchups. That gives me a bit of an advantage when I play against them. So we see Wigglytuff lead as well. This is a really good lead. They're going to swap into Alolan Marowak. So I'm going to throw a Shadow Bone because I'm ahead in energy. And I'm going to try and catch a Shadow Bone of my own on Obstagoon. So yeah, I do manage to catch it. This is going to allow me to end this matchup with a ton of energy or grab some shields. So yeah, I'm just going to charge up to 2 here. Unless they throw or charge up to a Fire Blast, there's no way I'm shielding, right? They're just going to throw Bone Clubs. These and the Fire Spins, they add up, right? Like, Obstagoon isn't the hardest counter in the world to Marowak, but you certainly exert a lot of pressure. So I'm just trying to get to 2 Night Slashes here. Either I can throw one into the next Pokemon, or I can throw another one to Marowak. Unfortunately for me, they actually do a really good job anticipating this, swap into Wigglytuff to catch that Night Slash, which kind of tickles. So now they have shields down. I have 2 shields. And my Obstagoon is still alive later, just in case I need to use it. So there's not too much in this cup. That beats Vigoroth in the 2 shields. But I decided to use one anyways, just to kind of hedge my bets in case it's a Drifblim or something like that, right? If it's Drifblim, I'm going to need to keep this Marowak alive so that I can throw a Shadow Bone into it. The Marowak comes back. I'm okay to throw a Bone Club at it. And in comes Altaria. So this is not a great scenario, but because I have this Marowak and this Shadow Bone up still, I'm able to swap into Vigoroth and just exert a ton of pressure with these body slams. I still do have a shield, and I still do have an Obstagoon as well. So I actually try and practice my counting and catch. This was just like an unnecessary catch, but they were at Dragon Pulse. So I missed my count. Yeah, I'm not very good at counting those one-turn moves. It's just something you need to practice and work on, I think, or tie to your energy, but either way, it's tough. So next match here, we've got another Altaria lead. These are definitely tough, not unwinnable, but definitely the hardest. And they're going to swap into Skarmory. So they're running double flyer team. This is very odd to me, especially because one of them was in the lead. And this is Steel Wing Skarmory as well. So I'm just going to throw as much energy as I can here. I use a shield because Skarmory charges much slower. If I outpace, it always benefits me to use the shield. I'm going to throw a Body Slam here before I get too low. I'm just trying to win back switch advantage. If I can't, I really want to get back shield advantage. So I'm going to get to this next Body Slam as well. And they are going to shield. And I try to swap into my Marowak to delete their Skarmory before they can spend their energy. And unfortunately I get caught by this Altaria. Quick fingers by my opponent. I honestly probably could have swapped a bit faster, or a bit earlier, because my switch timer would have been up before theirs. In this case, I have to make a really tough decision. I let my Marowak go down. I'm going to save my shield for the Obstagoon. We're going to come in with Obstagoon. And I'm going to get to that Night Slash before they get to their Sky Attack, which is very big. Because Obstagoon has to have some broad shoulders in this game if I'm going to win it. And Alolan Marowak comes in. So they don't charge up to a Fire Blast. I don't have to shield here. But this game is still not over. I'm using my fast move counting technique. So what I'm doing here is I throw one and then I throw my charge move. So same thing here, because I'm waiting for them to try and catch. I'm going to throw one and then use my Night Slash, right? So at this point, they're locked into their Fire Spin animation. They can't catch my move. And so Skarmory still had energy, so it makes sense why they weren't trying to catch. They wanted to get that energy off, but luckily I saved my Vigoroth as well. So keeping these really low health Pokemon around has really helped my gameplay. You can use them as catches at the end. Sometimes it's all you need to finish off another Pokemon later. Sometimes they can just grab a charge move off of a Pokemon after one of your other ones faints. There's a lot of options. So Wigglytuff into Stunfisk. I feel like we've seen this exact game play out before, but here we go again. Same thing. I'm just doing fast move denial as often as I can. The 2 turns are pretty tough, but you can still increase your percent or lower the percent chance of them getting their move through. So I'm going to spend a shield here because I thought a shielding an early one would be a discharge, but they somehow baited me the Mud Bomb. I don't know. I get the shield back. And at this point, like, switch advantage is incredibly important to me. So I'm going to go to the 2 shield, which Vigoroth has a little bit of a better matchup in. And I'm going to go and just barely get to that body slam. And because of fast move denial, I'm able to win this switch advantage back as well. So this is not something you win back unless you fast move deny. And they're going to swap into Mandibuzz. So the game is not over yet. Still plenty of time in this one for me to make some brain farts. I.e. throw Night Slash instead of Cross Chop for whatever reason. Yeah, this was a mistake. Throw Cross Chop. I could pretend I was going for the boost, but I'll be just brutally honest with you guys. Don't know what I was thinking. Really should have pressed the Cross Chop button. We'll see if it ends up costing me. So, because this matchup is so slow, Mandibuzz versus Obstagoon, the switch timer is back up. And I'm counting my fast moves again, just so they don't get too many snarls through. And I think once they get this move through, they swap into Wigglytuff, and I have to be ready for that switch. Because when that happens, I have to switch right away, or my Obstagoon will be deleted along with all the residual energy it has. So in this case, I do want some energy going into the Mandibuzz matchup, but at the same time, I can't really afford to farm too much on this Wigglytuff because it puts so much pressure on Marowak. So I guess I'll take what I can get. This matchup, this should have been a win. So look what's happening here. I'm waiting for them to just farm me all the way down. And guess what? How does my Marowak faint? That doesn't make any sense. It was more than 1 charm away. It was maybe 2 or 3 charms away. And all of a sudden, just like that, it's gone. So, I don't know what happened. Scientists are researching and still trying to figure out how I managed to lose that last game. So, not sure if that's a new bug. For those of you following the new bugs from Niantic, but yeah, if no Pokemon is attacking, I guess just one faints after a certain amount of time. That doesn't make any sense. But I guess overshadowed by my complaining was the fact that I got expert off of this set. Kind of inspired by a couple of YouTube comments and people just being a little bit of downers. I decided to go pretty hard in these sets to show how easy it is to gain rating if you're trying really hard and you do have a good team. So we'll see how this last set goes as well. That was a 4-1. I think there's a 3-2 and a 5-0 so far. So 12 out of 15, which is honestly pretty good. Tons of gains already. I think on the order of like 130 or 150 points in 3 sets. So I mean, if you keep up this pace, you'll be like 10,000 by the end of the season. But you can't keep up this pace, obviously. But yeah, so I get Fire Blasted here. That's what I was worrying about this entire time. You just miscount a little and you get in a ton of trouble. So because they Fire Blasted, I know they've used all their energy. You don't just like overcharge Fire Blast. And I just go for the Bone Club. Unfortunately, they do get to the Shadow Bone. I wasn't really sure how much damage Bone Club did to Alolan Marowak. And they're going to swap into Litleo. So I just throw the Body Slam here. In hindsight, I probably should have went to the Bulldoze. But I was not sure how much damage this Litleo was going to do. And I'm going to get crunched. Litleo, I'm not sure why this one is running Ember, if that's normal. But I've seen a lot of Litleos run Fire Fang instead. Uh, maybe someone in the comments can correct me if I'm wrong, but Fire Fang does seem better. You just put out so much more pressure. I know Ember charges a bit faster, but 3-3 is not a good move. 2.5, I think you sacrifice that 0.5 of energy for that extra damage. We're going to see a regular Victreebel lead. I have not seen one of these in a long time. A bit of lag on the front, but they swap into Wigglytuff. Because they swap, I'm just going to get a ton of energy here. That's my goal, and then I'll swap out. I want to save my Alolan Marowak for the Victreebel. I don't mind losing a little bit of health to gain that much energy. Right, Fire Spin is neutral against Wigglytuff. I'm taking resisted damage. It's good trade. I gain more energy than they do, but my charge moves are just absolute trash versus Wigglytuff. I'm going to swap into Vigoroth, and they are going to come back in with Victreebel. So, yeah, it's just body slams here. Regular Victreebel can survive them a lot better than Shadow can, but at the same time, it also does way less damage and is way less threatening. So, I'll come back in with Marowak, and they're going to swap out right away. Very good swap. I was mashing that Bone Club button, and they catch it. But like I said, my goal is to empty my energy so that when I do end up having to deal with that Victreebel later, wait, no. So I don't have to deal with that Victreebel as much later. Got to get rid of this Stunfisk, and then once Stunfisk is down, I can deal with Victreebel pretty handily. So the one worry there was that Stunfisk takes down Obstagoon. So if I just throw my energy at Stunfisk first, Obstagoon has a much better chance. And once again, they make a really good switch into Victreebel. I get their final shield, and this is putting me into a bit of a tough situation. I will shield their Leaf Blade because I think it's the most threatening move they have. And I'll just have to Bone Club. I thought about going for that extra Fire Spin because I didn't think they had any energy, but Bone Club is enough from that HP by far to take it down, even though if it's not great of a move. So we're able to get this win, bounce back from being Fire Blasted. Man, is it demoralizing to get Fire Blasted, but yeah, it'll happen. Skarmory lead, another good lead. They swap into Lanturn. So a pretty neutral matchup with the entire team. If you want to guarantee switch advantage, though, Vigoroth and Obstagoon can both do it, right? Lanturn takes so long to charge. Its charging moves are big, but with shields up, Vigoroth and Obstagoon absolutely dumpster Lanturn. I'll shield it. It could be a Hydro Pump. If it's a Thunderbolt, it would deal a lot of damage anyways, but I'm going to be able to counter down after this. So shield disadvantage, but I'm going to keep switch, which is, I wouldn't say it's like all that important, but it's decently important. Marowak is able to farm Skarmory pretty much all the way down if you expend a shield. Unfortunately, the Skarmory is going to have an absolute ton of energy, and I'm electing not to switch out here. My switch timer's up. I don't want to get locked in, though. Like I said, I would never swap into Alolan Marowak like I did into Obstagoon in the earlier game. Just kidding. I did anyways because it got low enough, and I tried to snipe it. So ignore what I said, and Stunfisk comes in. So this, I kind of get punished here. But at this point, I do have quite a bit of an advantage. So we'll just see how this plays out. They still have two shields. I'll throw the Shadow Bone first, but I'm just going to throw Bone Clubs just because getting any damage is valuable at this point. It doesn't matter how little it is. I can either burn shields from Obstagoon, or I can get some significant damage on this Stunfisk. So they let me get to another Bone Club as well. And yeah, like you'll see, two shields, and I'm going to try and get to that other Bone Club. Kind of a misplay from me. I really shouldn't have let them farm me all the way down. I really did think I'd get to the Bone Club, but instead I'll come with Obstagoon. They have a lot of energy, but at the same time, my Obstagoon was at full health. Still very healthy, and their Skarmory doesn't really have... I thought they might be close to another move. That's why I swapped into the Vigoroth there, because I was trying to catch their Skarmory's move. But it ends up just giving my opponent a little bit of an advantage, but like I said, I'm so far ahead, it doesn't really matter in this game. Yeah, this team handles Skarmory pretty well. Vigoroth is pretty good into Skarmory too, and especially Steel Wing, and Obstagoon is also pretty good into Skarmory, so... and I don't need to talk about Alolan Marowak's matchup with Skarmory, Fire versus Steel. So this time Lanturn, but in the lead. So in a bit of trouble this time, I'm going to swap out right away, and I'm going to get completely hard countered by this Froslass. So Froslass versus Vigoroth, not a great matchup. So lose the lead, lose the swap. Is there any play left? We'll find out. I actually don't remember. But we'll find out. And you can tank an Avalanche with Vigoroth, but unfortunately it puts you in farm range. I'm going to get to this Body Slam. If I'd shielded, I actually probably would have been able to guarantee switch advantage, which is decently important in this matchup. But I'm going to come in with Goon because I know they're at a Shadow Ball, and I know they think that my Marowak's coming back, so I'm going to tank that Shadow Ball. This is the road to recovery right here, and I have to hope that they don't have anything for my Obstagoon. So, like I said, Ice types, they don't have any play versus this team. I lost lead. I lost switch advantage. But somehow I'm looking in a very comfortable position to take a commanding victory here. Like I said, 2 shields up. I'm just trying to get damage as much as possible. My goal is to just not get farmed down by Lanturn. And they throw their energy. So because they throw their energy, Obstagoon with 2 shields has no problem dealing with Lanturn. The Abomasnow has almost no HP. I caught its last move. It has no energy, right? So this Abomasnow is nothing. It can't get to a move. I just need to take down this Lanturn before it takes me down with a shield advantage, right? So Water Gun, I think, is on pace. And I knew they were going to try and catch there as well. You can see me throw pretty much right away those Night Slashes. But on that last one, I knew they were going to try and catch. So I overcharged a little bit more, and they swapped into the Abomasnow for the last attempt. Just goes to show you can lose your lead, you can lose your switch with these double weakness type of teams, and it doesn't really, like, it matters, but there's still a win condition, right? Like, this team just absolutely stomps Abomasnow, even though I lost lead and switch. This is the exact opposite situation of that, however. We're going to battle Alpha Phoebe here. Very good battler. Like a great person too, to be honest. And unfortunately for him, he's running Shadow Victreebel lead, which is hard countered by Marowak. He's got the Lapras swap, and we're gonna find out what he has in the back in a little bit. I'm not gonna get to that Body Slam. That's okay. So I swap in right away. I'm watching my switch timer because we switch at the same time, and I swap right away just to take down most of this Victreebel's health. I can get a shield as well off of it, and then they're gonna swap Dugong. So this is a complete hard counter team. This is the type of team where there's nothing you can do. So sorry about that, Alpha Phoebe. I would have loved to have a more fair match against you like we've had in the past, but yeah, this is not it. I think all of my Pokemon win every shield scenario against all of his Pokemon. So there's not much that can happen there. And it's not like Victreebel's the Pokemon that can bring energy advantage into the next matchup either, right? So not a lot of pivoting he can do. I decided to not go for the 2 shield flex because I was very scared that, I don't know, he's running a Solar Beam or something. I don't know. But yeah, rather use that shield and stay safe. And we are going to take a 4-1. 4-1, I'll take it for sure. And I believe that puts us at 16 out of 20 for the day. This team's a ton of fun. I love using Vigoroth and Obstagoon, like counter users with those quick charge moves where you can just dance around their fast move. There's a lot to do for you, right? Like I have to count their fast moves. I have to count my fast moves. I have to count all that kind of stuff. And it's a lot of fun. You just feel like you can really push a team to its limits when it's a counter user, at least. But yeah, that's this video. I'll put all my information below as usual. Patreon, Discord. Feel free to hit me up with a subscribe or a like on YouTube as well. And Happy New Year, guys. As always, thanks for watching.